All right. Hello, everyone. We're going to wait about 30 seconds, let people get logged in and into the webinar. And then I am excited for our presentation today, and I will introduce Bobby and get us started. So yeah, we'll just give about 30 seconds to let everyone come in. All right. Okay, well, I will start off by introducing Dr. Bobby Lowe. Dr. Bobby Lowe is a human performance psychologist who loves writing, speaking, and teaching people how to apply principles of psychology to become high performers. Over the years, Dr. Lowe has spent his time conducting research and consulting leaders, teams, and individuals on how to perform their best at work. Currently at Motivosity, he spends his time applying the very best science from human motivation to the technology that they built. This technology is engineered to help managers be more effective managers and leaders, and help employees be more motivated and happier at work. Additionally, Dr. Lowe leads Motivosity's research that illustrates the proven behaviors that organizations, teams, and leaders can do to build positive cultures that improve employees' relationships, retention, and productivity. After retiring as a professional pole vaulter, yeah, you heard that right, he traded in running shoes for a set of golf clubs. His favorite pastimes is hunting for lost golf balls in the woods with a Mountain Dew in hand with his family. So I work with Bobby every day. I can second that. We are so grateful to have him at Motivosity and the knowledge and research that he brings to the team, and who he is to the culture of Motivosity as well. So with that, Bobby, I will pass the time over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Carly. Yeah, thanks for that intro. I enjoy playing golf. I'm in the woods mostly because that's where I hit my ball. And so I do get to spend a lot of time hunting for golf balls and my own. Believe it or not, I am that guy that always finds his ball. No, this is good. I am so glad to be with you guys today, with everybody, and talk about a topic that I really am passionate about. I'm energized by. I love it, and that is, really on the larger level, it's how do you motivate employees to be their very best in the workplace, right? And so we're going to talk today about connectedness, and I'll use the word belongingness too, but really those two words are interchangeable. But we're going to talk about that, and then how it applies to retaining your employees. So it should be a fun conversation. But as I get started here, I want to ask a question. We don't really have a chat to engage well here, but I just want you to think about, do we have any mountaineers in the audience? Do we have any hikers or climbers, or even, I mean, I was an extreme sports enthusiast. I pole vaulted in college and professionally, but I am not an extreme climber. And so this is a picture of Everest, tallest mountain in the world there, and it requires quite a significant effort, training, time, skills to summit Everest. I want to just talk a little bit as we have our conversation today. I want to talk a little bit about Mount Everest, but for a minute, just daydream here. Imagine standing on top of the world. You got 1 foot in Tibet and you got 1 foot in Nepal, and you feel like you can reach to the heavens because you're so high up. You look out across the snow-capped mountains of the Himalayas, and you can see the curvature of the earth. You can see as far as the eye can see, and then just think about the joy and the euphoria that you would feel from having accomplished something like that. Only a few people, fewer than 6,000 people in the world have ever stood on top of Everest. And so I can imagine that's quite an accomplishment and quite an achievement when folks get to do that. As we talk today about creating an irresistible culture where people want to say, I love it here. I sort of think that's kind of like summiting Mount Everest for many of our people leaders, many of our operational leaders. And so when we get there, when we get to that ideal culture or that perfect culture, I feel like it is a little bit like summiting Mount Everest, and it changes the job from just being a job to an additive or meaningful or fulfilling part of our lives. So where our work actually is something that enhances our experience. So let's as we talk today, we're going to work towards climbing Mount Everest and talking through those things. But as we do that, I want to share just a clip with you to give you a sense of how awesome Mount Everest is. Awesome. I wanted to finish right there on that image of our climber here, summiting Everest. Jared, I'm a little bit like you. Your comment in the chat here. I think I could climb that. As we sit on our couch and we reach into our bag of potato chips. I'm a little bit like that as well. But think about the experience there. I can imagine that would be quite fulfilling. I think the piece I would enjoy the most is seeing the stars, kind of being that high up and having that kind of a clear view into the sky and being able to see the stars. I think would be absolutely just breath take away your breath, right? So let's dive in here. I want to just highlight, a lot of you have read these statistics. We kind of understand the trends. I just want to sort of give a quick state of the workplace. Today, it's not super great, right? We've seen over the last couple of years, employee engagement scores are trending down. We've also seen a steady rise in employee loneliness. 3 out of 4 employees say they experience that at times. And then I thought this was really interesting that nearly half of folks today would consider leaving their job and citing feelings of loneliness as sort of the cause. So yeah, the state of the workplace, right? There's some work we need to do here. There's some work we need to do to improve the state of the workplace. So how do you do it? Well, I'm going to talk about belongingness and connectedness today, and some of the fun statistics. Those that know me know I'm kind of a research nerd, and I love data and I love statistics, and so I'm reading articles all the time. But I found these two articles that say, when folks feel like they belong, or when folks are connected to their organization, they're 7 times more engaged. They're 8 times more likely to stay with their company. Those are pretty powerful outcomes-oriented metrics that I think every business and every organization would want to have, right, as a result. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how to do that. I put this in here. I want to really emphasize the importance of how we are programmed, we are hardwired as human beings to seek connection and to seek belonging with others that share our values, our experiences, even some of the same goals and objectives. It's in our nature to want to organize as groups, as teams, as tribes, as communities, and sort of build a sense of identity and purpose and support, right? That's what belonging is. And that's deep rooted inside of us. It's kind of fundamental to our ability to thrive. And so building that inside of the workplace is absolutely critical to creating a great work experience. And if you can create a great employee experience inside the workplace, like I said before, people are 8 times more likely to stay with the organization. And so we're going to talk about that today, right? So how do you build connectedness in your organization? Connectedness is kind of an umbrella term. I'm going to try to break down really what that means when people say like, I feel like I belong at the organization. And really there's 4 key areas to help connect people to an organization. The first is, am I connected to my organization, the company? The next is, am I connected to my role? Does my role have an impact? We'll talk a little bit more about that as well. And then the third is, do I feel connected to my team, the group that I work closest with? And then last is, do I have a positive relationship with my manager? Am I connected to my manager? And so we're going to break each of these down. But as we do that, let's go on an adventure. We're going to talk about Mount Everest, and we're going to talk about climbing Mount Everest and compare these to the stages and the approaches to building a connected culture inside your organization. So here you can see we have the map of Everest. There's basically four camps that you got to reach before you can get to the summit. And so this is the map that we're going to follow and use as we start to summit Everest and build a connected culture. The first phase, or the first challenge, is called the Kumba Ice Falls. And the reason it's called the Kumba Ice Falls is because very literally it is a waterfall of ice falling off of a giant glacier. It is a slow moving river of ice chunks that are coming off the Kumba Glacier, which is essentially up on top. These ice cliffs are the size of houses, and they're always moving. So there could be ice cliffs that break. There could be some that shift. In order to climb through this section, you have to cross basically bottomless canyons of ice. And you saw in the video that how they were crossing those were on ladders that were just strapped together, right? I shared this presentation in another group, and in the comments, a lot of folks were saying, all I see is OSHA violations. And so you can imagine the risk you have to take to do that. The couple interesting things about this section is about 12 miles long, And in order to summit Everest, hikers have to climb through this section 8 to 10 to 12 times during the whole time that they're on the mountain. And so you can imagine, as dangerous as this is, you're dodging, avalanches and falling ice. As dangerous as this section is, that really the key to success is speed, right? So you hear, when you talk to climbers, they'll say you have to get through that Kumba ice falls fast. But let's talk about that and how it kind of connects to connecting people to your organization. I put this first because it's something that can happen fast for an employee, and actually sometimes happens early in the hiring and onboarding stages. But that's the ability for an employee to connect to their organization. And there's two pieces that contribute to this. The first is being able to connect to a mission, a cause, something that allows us to feel like we're contributing to something bigger than ourselves. The second piece is connecting to the values of the company. Do as employees, right? Do we feel like we are part of a group that both agree with the values and demonstrate those values inside of the workplace? And so this is a critical part about connecting to the organization, and employees want to connect to these areas. So if you can kind of bridge those two things, employees will feel more connected with their organization. To help reinforce connecting people to the organization, the best way to help somebody connect to the mission and the values is to positively reinforce that behavior through rewards, recognition, and appreciation when that behavior is demonstrated, right? So when the behavior is demonstrated, let's recognize them, let's appreciate them when that behavior is demonstrated. Here's an example of that inside of Motivosity. These are two coworkers, two peers, and this is what they said about each other, or essentially what Stephen said about Rachel in terms of helping all of our customers, right? So one of our core values is to serve always. And so Stephen pointed out, hey, you're a good partner with our customers, and you're serving always, and you make it easy for them, right? And then our mission is to help people be happier at work. And so Stephen pointed that out as well to Rachel, right? So again, this is what it sounds like when folks are appreciated. I want to ask a poll question here, and Carly's going to throw a poll question up on the screen. Let me move that over here so that you can still see my slide. But if you can see the poll question here, I want you to just ask yourself, do you feel connected to your organization? And how often does that happen? Is that always? Is that sometimes? Is that rarely? Is that never? I'm curious to see, of our group, how many folks feel connected to their organization. So we won't take a lot of time here. Go ahead and vote, and then let's share the results, Carly.
All right, I'm gonna end that poll. We got almost everyone, and here are the results.
I don't know why it keeps showing up on the other screen. But yeah, let's, so most of the group, a good 85% of the group feel like they're either always connected or sometimes connected to the organization. And then there's about 14% that said that they don't feel that connected. And so some room for some improvement there, right? We, as organizations, we should always be sort of, striving to help people feel connected. I want to share some research that we did here inside of Motivosity and show some of the results that come from this. So at Motivosity, we are big about recognizing and appreciating and helping build positive relationships with managers through one-on-ones and being aligned on what work needs to be done. And so we promote that, and we encourage that those activities happen often. And when they do, and when an organization is flooded, we've actually measured over 250 organizations, over 100,000 participants in this study, where we said, when recognition and appreciation is happening, and these activities are happening, what impact does that have on your satisfaction with these different elements, right? So feeling connected to your organization. And so we saw an 82% increase in satisfaction with employees agreeing with and demonstrating their company values, which is pretty substantial increase in satisfaction there. Okay, perfect. Let's shift to the next phase of our climb and summit up Mount Everest. The second phase is called the Valley of Silence. And so you can see here, we're gonna walk through this little canyon, and essentially where we are in this stage of the hike is we're up on top of that Kumba ice glacier. So now we're at 21,000 feet. You know, that same level that is higher than all the mountains here in America, right? We're hiking on top of this glacier. It's about 3 miles long, and you still have to essentially hike over these canyons, these ice canyons. And again, they use the ladders to hike over these ice canyons. There's ice canyons that you can see, but one of the really big dangers is there's ice canyons that you can't see, and sometimes that presents a risk of falling. And so as they hike, all the climbers are actually strapped together so that if somebody had something happen, others would be able to kind of catch them, right? But one thing that's interesting about this section is that the temperature, as you're walking on top of this ice glacier, can actually get up above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So imagine you're 21,000 feet, there's, mountains of snow. It should be freezing, right? And it is, but at this point in the hike, because of the reflection of the sun and how close you are to the sun, it can get really, really hot there. I thought it was interesting that even if a cloud goes in front of the sun, the temperature will drop down to about 0, just in a short amount of time. So hikers and climbers are essentially having to navigate both hiking this 3-mile stretch, but also the wide variation in temperature as well. Let's talk about how this connects to our what we're talking about here today: connecting employees to the impact of their role. And really, this is a critical one. And I tied this to this section of the Valley of Silence because a lot of this depends on the employee, right? This is, do I come in and feel like I'm connected? Does my role have an impact? Do I feel like my role is important? Do I feel like the work that I do is seen by other people, is seen by my manager and leaders and other people inside the organization, and that it's also contributing to helping the company grow or helping the company fulfill their mission, right? So employees care about that. They want to know if their job is having an impact. They want to know if they're performing well in their job. And they want to know if that impact is meaningful to the company. And so the best way to do that is so again, going back to our positive reinforcement here, the best way to help somebody connect to the impact of their role is when you see that behavior demonstrated, then recognize them and appreciate them. And so I grabbed another experience from inside the organization. Carly's going to be mad at me because I'm going to embarrass her for a second, but she knows it. Everybody knows it. She's an absolute rock star here at Motivosity. But this was a comment that Logan, who is Carly's manager, said about her and about the impact that her role has on the culture here, not just the marketing team, but the company and the culture, and it has a significant impact, right? So this is what helps people. I'm sure after Carly got this message, and maybe I'll let her answer her own this question, but I'm sure she felt way more connected to both the company and her role, right? Because her manager was basically saying, "Hey, you super matter. You are important to this team." Carly, any thoughts or reactions you want to add to this?
Yes, it is funny to kind of see it here in this webinar, but I definitely remember getting this appreciation. And it's one of those you just kind of like stop and think, and you're like, wow, I feel like very seen and valued within the organization for the work I do and for the person I am. And that's what I think made it extra special.
Awesome. Yeah, Carly's great. Let's take a poll. Let's see. I want to ask folks, let's see how the impact of, and really this is, do I feel seen, right? Does the impact of my role it seen and recognized by others? So I'm just curious from the group what folks what the feedback is, where folks land on this one. Let me know when you're ready, Carly. We can move right to the next one here.
All right, I'm gonna give it about 7 more seconds, let a few more people answer, and then I will launch. All right, okay, so we're gonna end the poll, sharing the results. Here you go.
Perfect. We the results on this one were about 75% of folks saying that they always or sometimes feel like the impact of their role is seen by and recognized by others, and there was about 25% of folks saying rarely. So again, some improvement to be done there. Here at Motivosity, going back to that study that we did, I want to share with you what impact we saw, how much satisfaction we were able to see improved when we asked a question. This was a similar question. It wasn't the exact question, but here at Motivosity, we believe that the best way to feel like your role is having an impact is if you are being frequently and consistently appreciated by peers and managers and teams, right? So here at Motivosity, we just asked that question. We ask, hey, how, are you being recognized frequently? And when recognition was present, when appreciation was happening often and frequently, we saw 186% increase in satisfaction from employees saying, I feel recognized. So pretty significant improvement there. Okay, so the next phase of our journey, this one is called the Lotse face. And this one's a pretty intense section of the hike or the climb, which I say that, but really like every section is an intense part of the climb if you're trying to climb Mount Everest. But a couple of interesting things about this, right? So we've just hiked this valley, the Valley of Silence, and now we're at the base of this mountain and we're looking straight up at this. What's interesting is this actually is not Everest. This peak is called Lotse. And so climbers have to climb up this face to the top of this ridge here, and then they go off to the left to reach the higher peak, which is Mount Everest. But now you're at about 25,000 feet, which is, I mean, planes fly at this level. Hiking this section is a 2,000-foot vertical climb. So imagine climbing a staircase in the Empire State Building once, just hitting every stair, right? Climbing Lotse, the face of it, is like doing that 2 times. So you go up and then you actually do that again and you're climbing all those stairs. But that's exactly what this section of the climb is. It's essentially it's like taking a stair at a time. There's risk to rocks falling and avalanches happening, but really the biggest danger on this one is actually losing your footing and sliding back down to the bottom of this section with not really a way to slow down or stop, right? At this level, now you're starting to get into an area where oxygen becomes really, really limited, right? You're at lower levels of oxygen, and so one of the risks is that climbers start to get sick due to the lack of oxygen at this altitude. So, like all the other sections, this section has its own risks, but we got to get up the face, this Lotse face, before we can summit the top of the mountain. So I wanted to connect this section to being connected to your team. So connecting employees to the team, this actually is one of the pieces that has the biggest impact on retention. So if folks feel like they're connected to their team, employees care about this. I've actually read 2 books recently, and both of them really emphasize the importance of the team. They say there are 2 quotes that came out of them, but basically employees will stay for the team, but they will leave because of a poor manager, which we'll actually talk about next. But employees will stay for the team, even if it's in a bad company, a company that has a poor culture, right? If the company has a poor culture, but you're part of a little team that is a really, really great team. Believe it or not, employees will stay for a long time. And that actually happens the other way too. Alternatively, if you're part of an amazing company and an amazing culture, but the team isn't very good, that will have an impact on employees not sticking around. So again, if you're picking up the pattern here, the best way to help somebody connect to their team at the company is to positively reinforce that behavior with when that behavior is demonstrated, when reward them, recognize them, appreciate them. So this is me using my own psychology with you and sort of helping you kind of get the reinforcement that the appreciation and the recognition is how we help people connect to these different areas. So I'm going to share just a quick appreciation from Jalen. Jalen is actually a peer teammate of mine on our product team, and I saw this appreciation. It happened to come on Employee Appreciation Day, and he gave a shout out to the whole team, saying I'm really grateful I get to work with each of you and how much you helped me, and essentially was just felt a lot really connected to the team there. Let's go ahead and throw up this poll here, Carly. So, do you feel connected to your team? Another way, there's other companies, other research firms out there that measure a question similar to this, and a common question is, do I feel like I have a best friend at work? We here at Motivosity, we use this question: do I feel connected to the team? So, do you feel that always? Do you feel that sometimes? Do you feel that rarely? Do you feel that never? So let's go ahead and see the results here, Carly, whenever you're ready to share the results. Okay, similar to the others, we actually had more folks saying that they feel feel connected to the team more often, right? Only about 8% said that they essentially didn't feel like or rarely they felt connected to their team. So some good numbers there. I expected this one to be, kind of that highest percentage of folks saying, yep, I feel connected to my team with this question here. I'll share the results from our study. We saw 106% increase in satisfaction with folks feeling more connected to their teams when they were appreciated and recognized, and when they felt connected inside of their organization. So some awesome movement in improving people's satisfaction with feeling connected to their teams there. All right, so now we are to the last phase of our climb. We've made it through the Kumba ice falls. We've endured the temperature of the Valley of Silence. We climbed the steps of the Lhotse face, and at this point we haven't had any injuries. And believe it or not, in order to summit Everest, you actually have to do the route a couple of times. So folks will spend about 2 months on the mountain, and they'll go up and then they'll come down, and they'll go up and come down. But they only get to do this last part once. So the hope is they get to the top of the Lhotse face, and then they get one shot to kind of summit Everest, and this is called the death zone. And the reason it's called the death zone is because your body actually literally starts to die. I know that sounds a little bit brutal, but it starts to die because of the lack of oxygen. So you're up at this level where it's really, really hard to breathe. Not to mention, you've got headaches, your lungs burn. You've hiked already at this point like 40 miles. And I've heard a lot of climbers describe it like breathing the oxygen up there at that level is like running and then trying to breathe through a straw. So I can imagine, as a runner, running and breathing is hard already. But running and then having your oxygen limited, like breathing through a straw, just sounds like incredibly difficult. So a lot of climbers will actually use supplemental oxygen at this level so that they can keep breathing. The biggest challenge at this stage of the climb actually is just stopping. The biggest risk is if a climber stops. So all the guides, all the experienced climbers, they just say, keep walking. one step after another, keep going. This section of the climb, they'll camp down here, but then they kind of hike up this part. They get up to right here. This section's called the balcony. And that's because on the other side of it, it's like a 2,000-foot straight cliff on the other side of this balcony. And then they climb over what's called the Hillary Step, and then they reach the summit of Everest. This section is only 1 mile long, but it takes climbers 6 to 9 hours to just take one step at a time, to get to the summit. Obviously, weather impacts this a lot. So there's only a few days in the calendar year where climbers actually have a window to climb up here and reach the summit here. So let's talk about the last stage of our of connecting our employees. I intentionally did the death zone and connected that to the manager, not because all managers are bad and they're out to just get all their employees, but actually because if this isn't done well, if connecting employees to their managers, if having a positive relationship with your manager isn't done well, this is one of the biggest things that employees will cite as they're leaving a company, is that they just didn't, they could be connected to the organization. They could know that their role is having an impact on the organization. They could even be part of an amazing team. But if you have a crummy manager, that could be the end of it for that employee sticking around that company. And so absolutely critical to make sure that we're developing positive relationships with our employees and their managers. And here at Motivosity, we spend a lot of time building technology to help facilitate this, to help enable this, to help strengthen those relationships between employees and managers, mostly through the activities that help build a strong relationship there, right? So this shouldn't be any surprise to you at this point, but the best way to help somebody connect with their manager is to positively reinforce that behavior when you see them demonstrating it, through recognition, appreciation, rewarding them, and really this. So it's really important for managers who are managers of managers. That was a lot of managers in one sentence right there. But if you're a manager of managers, it's really important to make sure those managers are appreciating their team members, right? And then again, managers appreciating their team members is a key activity to building a strong, positive relationship there. I'm going to share with you, here's the last one, and I love this when I saw it, but this is Erica, who is our head of customer success, talking, sharing an appreciation to one of her team members, Ryan. And I love what she highlights here. But basically saying, look, you're great at what you do. You have a hunger to learn. You're always willing to keep growing. Not a day goes by that I think about how much better you make our team each day. Ryan, I don't think Ryan is here on this call, but I can imagine Ryan sort of feeling pretty pumped up after a comment like this, knowing that his manager feels this way and cares about him in this way, and the impact of his role, right? So let's throw up a poll here. I want to ask the group. I want to ask the group how you feel relative to the relationship you have with your manager. I have a positive relationship with my manager. How often does that happen? Is it always, sometimes, rarely, never? Hopefully we get some good results here. I actually anticipate this to be the lowest respondent, so maybe you'll surprise me. But Carly, whenever you're ready there, let's go ahead and show the results here.
All right, friends, and I'm going to end the poll, and here are your results.
Perfect. So, oh, actually, I'm surprised. There wasn't anybody on this group that actually said that rarely or never do they have a positive relationship with their manager. So maybe with this sample, we're a little bit lucky in that most folks here have good relationships with their managers. That's great news. Let me share with you the results from some research that we've done here on how we've been able to move this, right? So when recognition is present, we saw 96% improvement in the satisfaction with having a positive relationship with their manager. So this is employees saying, because of the appreciation I feel, because of the activities that help build positive relationships with managers, I am more satisfied with my relationship with my manager. And we saw a 96% increase in that satisfaction. So now we've done it. We've successfully summited Everest on our couch while digging into our bag of potato chips, right? But we've climbed each of these sections. We've endured the risks, the challenges, the dangers, but we've essentially successfully connected our employees to each of these critical areas of their organization. We've connected them to the organization, to the impact of their role, to the team that they're on, and then hopefully forth to a positive relationship with their manager. And doing so creates some pretty significant results. So I'll just sort of re-emphasize these 4 areas, but I want to highlight that the recognition and the appreciation is sort of the most impactful activity that connects employees to these areas. I'll share with you some outcomes data here in a slide coming up. But I want to, if you're a math person, I wanted to just share with you. Really, this is our MV6. We call it our MV6, Motivosity 6, and it's called 6 because we picked 6 questions. And these questions are really designed to help measure what we've been talking about, to help measure employees feeling connected to their organization. And so these first 2 questions are the ones that I shared with you. But again, feeling recently and frequently appreciated at work is sort of the impact of your role question. Employees agreeing with and demonstrating those company values is again a behavior that helps them feel connected to the organization. Another good question would be, do you feel like you're connected to the mission of the organization, right? We've picked this one because it's more focused on the behaviors that employees and team members and peers are demonstrating, right? And then if you add that to the relationship group, this previous 2 questions, we call that the culture, the culture, because it's the behaviors that happen inside of an organization. And then the next one is the relationship. Do I feel connected to the team? Do I have a positive relationship with my manager? And then when you add those together, you should get really, really positive results. And so we actually have 2 questions. We believe that the 2 of the best impact questions or outcomes related question are the EMPS question, which is I tell my friends they should work here, right? Pretty standard. A lot of research been done on this, done on the employee side, on the customer side, right? But would I recommend this to others? And then we actually think that willingness to stay is a key outcome, right? I call it the loyalty metric, right? But it's essentially, I would not take another job for more money because of how satisfied I am here, right? So this is how, if you want to take this back to your organization and you want to measure connectedness inside of your organization, you want to see if it's working, right? You got your culture pieces, your relationship pieces, and then that should drive the outcomes that you want to see. I'll share with you this last slide as I wrap up with 2 more slides here, but these were the results that we saw from our study. We saw massive increase in satisfaction with willingness to stay in our organization and willingness to recommend the company to others, right? So we saw 134% and 196% increase in satisfaction, respectively there. So I just want to wrap up with this. Employees perform better and stay longer at their organization if they feel like they belong, if they're connected. When they are connected, they'll have a better employee experience. And like I mentioned before, that can lead to, a whole number of statistics that improve retention and loyalty and engagement and everything that you want to help your employees achieve. But it helps with 8 times, employees are 8 times more likely to stay at your organization when they have a great employee experience. And so that's really all I have. Thanks to the group. Thanks for going on this adventure with me. Hopefully hopefully we got enough of, climbing Everest that we actually don't really want to go and do that and subject ourselves to the risks and the dangers. But if that is on your bucket list, I'm cheering you along from my couch. All right, Carly, do we have any questions?
Sorry, my microphone won't turn back on. All right. Hello, everybody. Bobby, thank you so much for that presentation. I've seen it twice now, and it was just as good a second time. A lot of great information there. So yes, we do have a couple quick questions. One question came in asking about how do these topics differentiate when you're at a small organization versus a bigger, like large enterprise organization? It seems harder to connect people at a bigger organization.
Yeah, so I would echo that. Larger organizations, right? You're just dealing with a larger population. You're dealing with more people. Each of these elements are still very, very doable. Appreciation, everybody loves appreciation. I do know there are some cultures out there in the world that actually don't really love that, but maybe that's just because they haven't experienced it yet. But everybody, loves being appreciated. They love feeling valued, and it makes us feel great. And so, if you can use those appreciations strategically to help intentionally connect people, I think that's one of the gaps that happens here. So it works both in small and large organizations, but we sometimes just throw out an appreciation trivially or like a salutation, right? It's like, hey, see you later, thank you, right? But if we can be intentional about how we appreciate our team members and our peers, and we can highlight and point out these critical behaviors, we can connect them to the organization, to the team, to the impact of their role, and to a positive relationship with their manager, and that'll have an impact. So we just got to do it more, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'll just add too, sometimes I'm almost tempted to say like, oh, it matters more in a large organization because it's easier for each individual to get lost. But sometimes in those small organizations too, like if there's only 30 people at your company, you want to make sure that every person really feels valued, and that's like a small group to take care of. So it goes both ways, but great answer. Okay, and then the last one is, all right, so we are in the manufacturing industry and the culture looks a little bit different because there is shift work and not everyone is in the office. How do you feel like we should build connection in the manufacturing industry?
Yeah, great question. Deskless workers. We know there are a lot of organizations that have deskless workers, right? And it's not always easy to. We hear all the time here at Motivosity. We build technology to help enable this and facilitate this, and we hear in some cases that it's easier to do this in like a software company, for example, or a company where everybody's in the office or at least at a desk and they can be on their computer, and that may be true to an extent. I do think it is very capable to do this outside in deskless areas. It may actually require a little bit of technology. I would say from the as simple, and really it's the manager. It's the manager being more intentional about saying thank you to their team members, right? But if you have technology, I would say leverage it. And look, we all have cell phones. We all can send a text message. That's an easy form to make sure our employees know where they stand, feel like they're appreciated and recognized. So yeah, that it is a little bit trickier with deskless workers not being tied to a computer per se, but we are tied to our phones, right? So we can leverage
Bobby,
technology to do that.
I would just say on top of that, I mean, I'm in marketing, not in sales, everyone, but I mean, don't forget to check out that Motivosity mobile app, okay? Because we also, yeah, like Bobby said, we all have our phones in our pockets, and you can be working in the manufacturing industry and send a quick appreciation, and it can show up and everyone can feel connected. So we love it. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Bobby. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. If you do want to hear more about Motivosity, please let us know. We'll be sending out a follow-up email with a recording to this webinar, as well as a link that you can fill out to learn more about us and get a demo. So with that, I will say thank you and goodbye, everyone.